Time for another episode of Picard. Let's see what we've got in store. I know I wanted more light, but this is ridiculous. Roll the review.
So, Picard Episode 7, Season 3. Another good, strong episode this week. I'm really impressed so far with the direction the last few episodes have taken. If it continues this way for the rest of the series, it will be a success. So far, the story is cohesive, the characters are interesting, the plot points are believable, and this episode is another strong contender. We find ourselves in a very dire situation in terms of the plot and the crew of the Titan. We are searching for allies desperately within the Starfleet and the Federation and finding them thin on the ground, which leads us to a really fun cameo for me this week in Tuvok. Tuvok was from Voyager, predominantly came from Voyager. But there was I think there was some flashbacks of him being in earlier series as well, like retconned. But he's a Vulcan, so they live for a long time. So he was around for a long time. But Tuvok was predominantly Voyager, and he was one of my favourite characters in Voyager. He went through a traumatic amount of growth and change over that series, and to see him back again was great. Even if the way they've done it is with like a sort of bait and switch, being that it's not really Tuvok, it's a changeling. Yeah. So, but they hinted during that conversation between Tuvok and 709 that Tuvok was still alive. So they're keeping the people who they change into alive, which is good. So it means that we might get Tuvok proper back at some point before the series ends. And 709 is asking Tuvok about getting access to Janeway, Admiral Janeway. So I'm hoping to see Admiral Janeway as well. That would be good. That'd be really good to see more of the Voyager crew in this as well. Even though it's a sort of Picard Next Generation thing, and seeing all the Next Generation cast is really great. Seeing the Voyager cast is just as good for me because I was kind of equally connected to Voyager as I was to TNG. So I'm really happy to see those characters come back into it as well. I wonder if we get to see Chakotay. I think the actor said he wasn't in it, but we'll see. Chakotay would be good. I love Chakotay and Tom Paris. I like those characters. So it starts off with the Titan crew. As they were desperately searching for allies, and 709 has reached out to Tuvok. She's having a verbal back and forth with him. We're not sure if it's the real Tuvok. Seven's asking questions, and it feels like it is the right one. But then he slips up by not knowing something that Tuvok would know. And it's not even just Tuvok know, it's not something that all Vulcans would know. So he slips up and reveals himself as a changeling. And it just goes to show how deep the changeling conspiracy is, or changeling threat is. It's gone deep into Starfleet. I feel like they haven't taken Janeway yet. I've just got a gut feeling that they haven't taken Janeway. But we'll see how the series pans out. Picard is convinced that the reason they want his body and Jack's body is so that they can create some kind of perfect replicant version of Picard, which would be able to pass a genetic scan, which would allow him to get into Frontier Day. The big celebration is coming up. I'm not sure why. I don't think this is true. I don't think this is the real reason they want Picard's body precisely, because they could easily do the same with Janeway or another admiral or someone else who's much easier to get hold of. So there's something specific about Picard, and it's definitely got something to do with the disease that he has and that Jack has, his illness. But he thinks they want his body so they could create this replicant so you could pass a genetic scan to get through Frontier Day, which I don't really understand, because as far as the Federation and Starfleet are concerned, they have the technology that can detect changelings anyway. So I don't see why they would need to go to genetic scan level. There may be other factors involved which would mean that's why they would do that, but it seems an overkill, so I don't think that's the reason why. Certainly seems it could do any admiral that's going to be at a Frontier Day, so we'll see how that story has patterned out. Obviously that's the central mystery. Yeah, we learn a lot about Vadic in this episode, and Vadic's motivation, and I really like that. It draws her out from being a two-dimensional villain into something that's really quite compelling, and the reason not only why she is the way she is, but why the changelings have evolved in a sense to be much harder to detect is laid out in this episode. But I'll get to that in a minute. Generally, I thought the episode was really cleverly written. There's some sci-fi tropes, and not even sci-fi tropes, fantasy tropes, which I really dislike. This whole notion that you can wave at people who are chasing you and say, "Hey, come look at me, I'm over here, come look at me, come chase me," and that they will give chase, falling right into a trap. It just makes me mad. Because no person, even a stupid person, would think, that's the person I'm looking for. He knows I'm looking for them. Why is he waving at me to go over there? That's clearly a trap. I'll do something different. But no. So that kind of leads me into the main point of the episode, is that Geordi has basically said to them, look, there's nowhere else for us to run. We are on our own here. No one else is coming for help. We need to do something about Vadic. So they decide to do play possum and set a trap. So the Titan fakes that it's been in a battle with another Federation ship, a Vulcan ship, and that they're both being disabled during the battle. And Vadic has been told by her whoever's in charge of her, that she needs to get this done, or there's going to be dire consequences. So she's desperate at this point. So whether she believed it or not, it was true. She was willing to believe it enough because she's desperate to get Picard and Jack. Or Jack, they don't need Picard, they're desperate to get Jack. So they buy it, they board the ship with a tiny boarding party, like 2 or 3, which doesn't make much sense. I would have thought they would have just brought everyone. Like, don't take chances. Like, just bring everyone, beam them into different parts of the ship, and just take the ship all at once. But they don't do that. Vadic, she brings one, the big tall one, and a couple of little ones. And yeah, they come on, and Jack's there waiting to meet them, and he waves, "Hey, come look at me, hey, don't chase me, ha 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 ha." And they chase him, and it's like, come on, this is clearly a trap. But again, she's desperate, so you would have thought they maybe were a bit smarter than that, but no, they chase him. So they give chase, and yes, it is a trap. It is indeed a trap, but the only people who would spring the trap are Jack and LaForge. Like, of all the people on the ship, Jack and LaForge are LaForge is the only one who was going to go and help. Like, shoot at what? They don't know. They didn't know if they were going to bring an army, like an armada of a whole troop of these changelings. So Geordi's let his daughter go into this incredibly dangerous situation, which is a total change from last week's episode, where he was not even going to let her go on the ship because it was too dangerous. Now he's letting her be bait for a bunch of bloodthirsty, crazy changelings. So that doesn't really make sense. And then we assume he doesn't know, but it's his plan. So you got to assume he's talking about it with them. So they lead them into a trap. A bunch of force fields come up, and cuts them all off. And Vadic is walking through. It looks like med bay, sick bay, and she gets trapped in a force field as well. So Beverly's there, trying to talk to her, saying basically, "What do you want with my son?" Blah blah. And this is where we get revealed at what happened to Vadic, what happened to the changelings to make them the way they are, and basically what is the driving force behind the plot. It seems that way to this now, but it might not be true. So basically, during the Dominion War, there were several changelings who were experimented on and, tortured essentially. They were prodded and poked and subjected to all sorts of experiments and tortures, and this is what made them the way they are. So it made this group of changelings have the ability to hold their shape for longer, to trick the sort of scans that the Federation's got, but it also means that they're in basically constant pain and that they don't live as long. So they're really motivated to kill the Federation. Vadic seems to be the sort of main one here, but she doesn't appear to be the main villain. There's someone working, like she's working for someone. So that's an interesting dynamic where that's coming from, because she seems to be the one who's centrally motivated to get rid of Starfleet and solids in general. But she's working for somebody else, so who this ultimate villain is, we don't know yet, but we will find out. Hopefully, I think we'll find out in the next episode, because there's only 3 more episodes to go, and we really need to sort of ramp it up now. But ultimately, I believed that motivation. I believed why she was doing what she was doing. I understand her more now. So her, and the reason she laughs like she does, like she's insane, and the face that she's taken is all from the doctor who was torturing her. So I get Vadic now a bit more, and her motivations for doing what she's doing just seems much clearer. She's much more well-rounded, much more fleshed out. And there's that moral dilemma now of like, oh well, are we the baddies? Because Picard's like, yeah, that's terrible, but you can't still destroy us all, because she's trying to destroy you all. But it's basically the Starfleet and the Federation that created her, so they're to blame. I mean, the Federation did not come out well in the Dominion War, let's just put it that way. They used biological weapons and blackmail and torture, it seems, on these changelings to win. So the Federation does not come out smelling of roses here, and that's good. It's good and it's not. I mean, it's good in that it makes the Federation seem much more realistic, but it's bad in a way because Star Trek has always felt like an idealized version of what the future could be. Yeah, I think I said before, it's basically what the world or the universe could be if we got everything right. Sci-fi is like Blade Runner and Star Wars and Firefly and things like that, which are probably a much more realistic version of how a future will pan out. It's quite dire, quite dark, quite grim. Everything's a bit shit. But Star Trek was always the opposite. Humans had basically conquered poverty, disease, famine. There was no need for money. We just did everything. Everyone did everything to sort of better humanity. But humans are still humans, right? So you're always going to find shitty humans. So it's an interesting, but it's good. I'm good. Hoping to see more of this. It's an interesting development in the story and in the lore of Star Trek. So that's the sort of main plot thread. That culminates in Picard and Beverly having a moral dilemma of, do we just kill her? Because she's never ever going to stop. She's never ever going to say or surrender. She's never ever going to capitulate or reason or come to the negotiation table. She's never ever going to stop. She explains it to that to them. So their only recourse is to let her go or kill her. So they decide to kill her. They decide that she's got to go. There's no other way around it. In order to protect their son and to protect everyone else, they've got to kill her. So they try to kill her and they fail miserably. They shoot wildly and can't even hit a puddle. Now, that was annoying for 2 reasons. One, give them a reason for them missing, not just that they have crappy aim. Because Beverly was shown in the first episode to be a badass killer. She was shooting people who were shooting at her. And Picard is, he's old, but he's a positronic body, so he shouldn't have the shakes or anything. You'd hope. So they should have been able to shoot her. The fact that they couldn't was just embarrassing. But they had to decide to kill her and then fail. But there's better ways they could have done that. If the ship had rocked or been struck or something at the time, and then that's how they flipped and got away. But that's how that story culminates. And the episode is broken down into 3 stories. The Vadic story, which that's how that ends. Then there's the Jack and LaForge story. But there's also the Data and Geordi story. So the Data and Geordi story is by far my favourite in the episode. And it starts with Geordi turns Data's body on, and they have a little conversation, and it's super good to have that conversation back with Data and Geordi and Picard all in the same room. And Geordi's explaining that basically Data is split into 2. There's Lore and there's Data. And there's a barrier in between them to try and keep them apart, but they're effectively fighting each other all the time. Now, if he takes the barrier down, Lore is most likely going to just devour Data. And that would be Data gone for goodsies this time. But they've said that a few times, like Data would be gone for goods, and he's never gone. So, but Geordi doesn't understand the technology, which I don't really get, because Geordi's a brilliant engineer, and I know Data's positronic neural net is sort of way out there in terms of technology, but Geordi's a brilliant engineer, and his best friend was Data, so I would have thought he would have maybe spent the last 30 years figuring it out, but it's beyond him apparently. So essentially, because Lore and Data can't be separated yet, they turn him off. Now, during the Vadic boarding, Lore manages to get control of the body, and he just starts to mess with them, basically. He starts trying to lower the shields, which really fucks up their plan. He's locking all the doors. He's just messing with the ship because he just hates humans and solids and people like that in general. But Picard and the crew especially, he hates. So he's just wanting to fuck with them. So you get this lovely scene between Geordi and Data Lore, which really mirrors the Wrath of Khan, Kirk and Spock, where you got one on either side of the door, and Geordi's really trying to reach Data. He's making an emotional plea to Data to try and take over and to try and beat Lore. And it doesn't look like it's working, but he finally gets through to Data, and Data manages to take control of the body. You don't know if he's destroyed Lore or if he's managed to take control of the body temporarily, but he takes back control, and he gives back control of the ship to the crew and sort of disconnects himself from the ship. So Data is back. Now, Data is back proper. And that, when Geordi's talking to Data and he's saying like how he's sorry and he misses him, and I love that. And that emotion that came from LeVar Burton. LeVar Burton is a fantastic actor, and he was nailing that. And so was Brent Spiner. It's hard for Brent Spiner to portray emotion and act with just his face when he's playing a robot who literally has no emotion. That's one of his key character elements, but both of them together, they just nailed it. That was perfect. That was as good as the Picard and Beverly chat about her son, I think in episode 3 or 4. So this series has got some good, memorable moments, that will be remembered and will be watched again. These clips will be on YouTube, and you'll go back and watch them. You'll never watch anything from season 1 and 2 again. Never. You'll never ever watch anything from season 1 and 2 again. You just won't. It'll be gone. It'll be erased. But the stuff in here, you'll go back and rewatch, and you'll sort of point to them as classic Star Trek moments. And this is one of them. These are one of them. So that culminates that story, and that to me was definitely the best story. The third and final story is Jack and LaForge. And Jack is showing some weird powers or things happening. He's somehow able to read minds. He's trying to give LaForge the chat. He come back to my place. Hee. And she's having none of it. She's like thinking to herself, why doesn't he try and touch my hand first or something? You know, make it subtle. So then he tries to touch her hand, and then she's all freaked out like, God, why did you do that? That was creepy. So we don't know if he's reading her mind or what. It's a bit weird, but they end up trapped again on 2 episodes sides of the barrier. Basically, all three stories are people separated from each other, chatting. So there is action, but there's much more dialogue in this episode, and that's where Star Trek always worked. Like, let the actors do their job and convey the story through acting. You know? So Jack and LaForge are stuck. Their shields are failing because of lore, and there's a big changeling dude away to get LaForge, and the little changeling dude is going after Jack. Now, they can't kill Jack, but they could easily kill LaForge. So it didn't make any sense. They're running down a corridor with them right behind them, point blank range. They could shoot LaForge quite easily, but they don't. They try to chase them and capture them. Now, whether they've got absolute strict control, like strict orders that you cannot hurt Jack in any way, so don't even fire your gun near him, just in case you do. But then other times you see him shooting at him. So that doesn't make any sense. And it's just plot armor, basically. And plot armor is really irritating. Like, you need Game of Thrones Season 1 plot armor where there is none and literally anyone could die. Not Game of Thrones Season 8 plot armor where everyone in the main cast is invincible. So that was a bit annoying. I don't like that trope. There's another trope I don't like. But hey ho, it's a minor gripe. Minor gripe. So that story culminates with some weird stuff happening. Jack's powers are going kind of bananas. It looks like he's getting control of them near the end, and he somehow manages to warg into LaForge and control her body. He's killed his one when eventually the shields come down. He kills his changeling, no problem. He dispatches him. But she's having trouble with hers because he's massive. She doesn't know how to fight, but Jack does. And the barrier's gone back up. So he can't get to them, but he manages to control her body through with his mind somehow, or they end up being linked. Somehow, it's not really clear what's going on. But he's definitely mind projecting something into her or controlling her. So he's bobbing and weaving, and she's doing exactly the same. And she then manages to get a shot off and get this guy down. Doesn't kill him, but she gets him down. Don't know why that one shot didn't kill him, where it kills all the others, but maybe because he's bigger, he's got more goop. Anyway, it's a by the by, whatever. So they run off, and she's freaked the fuck out, like, what the fuck was that? Like, so there's definitely something more going on to Jack's illness than just his brain disease that Picard had. And also, as I said, I don't believe that Beverly, being a trained doctor, has never scanned Jack before. So this could not be the first time she's noticing this crazy disease thing he's got, like, just on the ship. She's never scanned him before. And it's never appeared before. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, by the way, it's got to be more than just a disease, because Picard never had the ability to read people's minds or control them. And I really hope they don't add that in as a retcon as to how he was so good at captain. Like, he was so good at persuading people to do things because he had this weird innate ability to just do it or control people's mind. I would really hate that. That would really destroy the Picard character. And if this had been season 1 and 2, I would think they would go down that road and they would just shit on the corpse of Picard and all of Star Trek. I'm giving these writers the benefit of the doubt now because they've done so much better this season. But if they did that, that'd be the end. You can't take away from the achievements or the accomplishments of Picard by saying it was all just a brain disease. But I'm judging them before the book is written here, so we'll hold judgment on that until if and when it happens. So, I mean, the last and the good thing about the episode is there was no Raffi again. Unfortunately, that means there's no Worf because they're together and they're somehow linked and tied together. And I'm willing to accept Raffi to get Worf back. And Raffi, when she's just in a crew and she's not trying to be, and they're not trying to make her the centre of attention, is perfectly acceptable. Like, she's a decent enough side character. As long as she's relegated to the side or background, you know, keep her out of the focus. Then she can actually work all right in this. And I would happily take her to get Worf back on board. So next week we need to get Worf back and Riker back. And then we need to get the Enterprise D. If you're not going to give me it, I'm going to give it to myself. Yeah, get the Enterprise D back. Oh, and as my little opening, if I didn't make it clear, lens flares are not lighting. Stop doing so many goddamn lens flares. That's a J.J. Abrams, like, Star Trek movie thing. Lens flares and shaky cam. Stop it! Stop it! You stop it! Bad! Bad! Just put proper lighting in and a steady cam. Yeah, we don't need shaky cam and lens flares to imbue a sense of drama and atmosphere. If you can't do that with your script, then you don't deserve to do it at all. Okay? So just stop it. But other than that, see, minor gripes for what is a really, really good episode. Really good episode. So long may this continue. Well, not long, we've only got, let's say, 3 more episodes to go, and then we're going to get a spin-off series of, like, the young characters, which, unless something changes dramatically in the next few episodes, I'm not interested in. But I can't judge a book before it's written. We'll have to wait and see. But as always, let me know what you think. What were your thoughts? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think that the Vadic reveal worked? Or was it just too obvious and tropey? How is it going to play into the wider story? But, you know, let me know your thoughts below, and always don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. Until next week, see you later.